Welcome to another episode of
Tell You First.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Bukit Brown Cemetery, and with Terence and I, we have a very special guest who is a friend of the show, friend of the podcast, and is none other than actress and content creator Munah Bagharib.
Hello.
Wow.
What's up, Munah?
A lot of things are up.
Uh-huh.
A lot of things are down.
Uh-huh.
But overall, it's all good.
All good. just coasting lah. Coasting.
Yeah, just coasting basically.
We've had many iterations of Munah together before, right?
Yes.
As actress,
guest speaker,
podcast
Yes.
host.
podcast guest.
I know. I feel like I'm so in line with you guys.
Yeah.
I'm part of the team. I came into the office just knowing where everything is.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have to make small talk at all.
Yeah, not at all. I just sat down. We all did our own thing.
Yeah.
Very good, right?
Yeah.
Comfortable.
And then now we're going to be talking about Bukit Brown.
Yes.
So maybe if I'll just ask, like, what are your personal histories with Bukit Brown and Bukit Brown Cemetery lah?
Terence, do you want to start?
Actually, not much. I mean, that's why I'm here to learn more. Haresh.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know there's something about ghosts in Bukit Brown.
Yes.
That's all. Yeah.
So the only thing I know about Bukit Brown Cemetery is that people go there to ghost hunt. For example, my brother sometimes goes there also years ago. And he said that he sort of felt or seen things. So one day he brought me and my sister over to go find ghosts. But no, we didn't find anything. But it was quite creepy though. It's very dark.
Uh-huh.
And the roads are really, really narrow.
Uh-huh.
Just overall like cemetery vibes. But
But you never went back lah.
no, that was the only time I went for the purpose of ghost hunting, and then that's it.
But are you like generally a very spiritual kind that can feel stuff, the vibes?
I can't feel, thankfully, I think, because I don't think I want to see, but I believe very much in it. I know like for sure there are ghosts
That
or
these
spirits.
supernatural beings exist lah.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I subscribe to
I mean,
that.
aside from the paranormal aspect of Bukit Brown, are you all aware of the controversy over the past few years for Bukit Brown Cemetery?
Just listen a little bit here and there. But
Encompassing what?
encompassing having to take away the cemetery lah.
Yeah.
A lot of people who were buried there, right?
Yeah. Because this is a huge space. So just to set the context, Bukit Brown is a cemetery that can you all guess when it was opened?
1506.
No,
1950s or something.
1922.
Or 22.
I was way off.
Yeah, and when was it closed? And by closed, I mean like burials no longer were happening.
95?
1973.
73.
Yeah, and can you guess like how many graves are there currently still at Bukit Brown?
561.
Okay.
Say 5,000?
100,000.
100,000?
100,000?
100,000.
Wow.
No way.
Yes. So it is apparently the largest Chinese cemetery outside of China. Can you believe that? Yeah.
Wow.
In Singapore, Bukit Brown, 100,000 graves.
Largest in the world outside of China.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But
Wow.
where it's all just Chinese people graves.
I see.
Yeah, where Chinese people are buried.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why, I mean, I never personally understood the extent to which people were petitioning for Bukit Brown Cemetery to not be removed or replaced with housing. But yeah, soon, I mean, hopefully by the end of this episode, you all also will appreciate the history lah.
Okay.
So basically, it is huge. Back in the early 1900s, the plot that was acquired was about the size of a 211 football fields lah.
Wow.
And the thing is, back in 1921, in the early edition of the Malaya Tribune, even the British colonial authorities noted that there will be tensions in future lah, because for the longest time, the British colonial administrators and the Chinese community, they were at ends with the usage of the land. Like the Chinese immigrants and all, they wanted to have places to bury their dead. The British authorities wanted to develop the land. So there was a line, and I quote, "Bukit Brown persists in getting mentioned at every meeting. It will be a prolific source of controversy later on." And 100 years later, really it's because there's this tension between using the land versus preserving the heritage.
And it was only the Chinese people who are burying people there.
Yes, correct. And I'll go into the history, but I mean, in Singapore, like, do you all know where exactly Bukit Brown Cemetery is? Aside from it being like far or seemingly far.
This one, you should know.
You
You've
went,
been
what?
ghost hunting there.
Yeah, ghost hunting.
All I was focused on my way there was like praying that like I don't see anything. I want to say in the west.
West, okay.
North.
North. It's actually around Novena, the
Novena.
central part of Singapore. So
Really?
it's bordered by the central water catchment, Toa Payoh, Kallang, Newton and Tanglin and Bukit Timah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so
Really?
it is
Oh, wow.
somewhere there, which I also found it very surprising. But that's why one of the biggest controversies was the road, Lornie Highway, which actually goes through Bukit Brown Cemetery.
Yeah.
So that was a controversy. Part of it was leveled to make way for the road. So if you look at the history, right, it used to be a kampong, but even before that, if I were to ask you, like, who do you think originally owned the land given the name Bukit Brown?
Mr. Brown.
I mean, you're not wrong, lah.
Michael Brown.
No, the land was originally owned by George Henry Brown,
Oh, okay.
a British
Okay.
merchant. So he had a house called Fern Cottage. The land was actually called Brown's Hill, but then was later translated to Bukit Brown. And it's also near Mount Pleasant, which is currently there. But what happened was in 1872, there were 3 wealthy Hokkien entrepreneurs who bought it because they wanted this to be a burial ground for their clan. You know, Terence,
Right.
you know, you hang out with your clan quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even back then, they bought it and they said, okay, we want to build a village for poorer clan members, but also use it to have like burial grounds. But eventually it was used solely for burial grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you mean when you went there ghost hunting, you had no indication that you were somewhere still in the city center?
Were you kidnapped
think so.
or did you have a hood over
Okay,
you or
first
something?
of all, it was a very, very long time ago. I don't have a memory of where exactly it was. I just knew it was just somewhere far away.
I see.
And it was at night and it was dark. So I
I mean, to be fair, I also always thought it was somewhere damn far, like
Right.
Kranji or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it isn't like, it's relatively quite central, which is why you can imagine what over the past 100 plus years, there's always been tension. Because when
see.
the entrepreneurs bought the land in 1872, as early as 1887, there was a bill introduced by the British to regulate cemeteries. And that was strongly opposed. And it was shelved. Then about 10 years later, there were more powers given to the Municipal Commission, which had Chinese representation, and slowly they started regulating it. So one reason why they eventually turned it into a burial ground is because as early as 1904, there was calls for more Chinese burial sites. Because from what I understand, a lot of the cemeteries back then, they were either private, like private for clans, or Christian. And non-Christian or poor Chinese laborers did not have places to be buried.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because the burial of the Chinese back then also followed a lot of feng shui. And like being buried on a hill is apparently very good feng shui. Were you aware
is
of that,
it?
Terence?
No, but let's say like Bishan. Bishan's a hill, right?
Yeah.
Bishan, which literally means like green or jade hill. And it was also a cemetery. So maybe it really is something about being buried on a hill.
Okay. And just going back to the location, you say like it goes through Lonnie, right? That's where
Lonnie,
the old Mediacorp Caldecott was sort of around
Ish
there.
lah.
So
Yeah,
it
that's
makes
right.
sense that
Caldecott
place is
Hill
always
also.
it's so like
The
it
energy,
feels
yeah.
very intense at
Did
night.
you go to Bukit Brown after a shoot? Like you just walk from Caldecott or?
It's not that close, I think. It's a bit further, but it's around the area, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
in the
around the
vicinity.
area. And it's a huge area.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, right now it's very well known for its vegetation. But going back to the history, there was always tension. So at one point, the Se Ong clan took over, and they refused to sell it. But finally, how the authorities got it back was they evoked the compulsory acquisition. So they basically said in 1919, we are going to take this land.
So take without paying. Just take.
Without paying. I think that there's some laws in place where if you're a governing body, you can take the land back.
No
Yeah.
compensation whatsoever.
No compensation, no verse.
How can this be
no
allowed?
Nothing, no.
Why?
Nothing like that. So, there was a lot of opposition, but they took it back. Even now, the government has the Land Acquisition Act. And certain things they can do, which, I mean, if they really want it, they can get it. So it happened back then. And the reason why it's called Bukit Brown is, because originally owned by Mr. Brown, then got taken over. And Bukit Brown was translated because, Malay is the national language. And it got, translated because it was what was commonly referred to that time.
Okay.
Bukit Brown.
And you're saying that the people Chinese people then wanted more burial ground.
Yes, correct.
Because most of them were like buried. Because, I mean, for me as a Chinese Singaporean in the 40s, I've never experienced burying a relative before.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too.
Yeah.
Like, is that part of the ritual as well?
That's why
burying?
it's very ancient. Probably,
Yeah, it is very ancient. And all the bodies that are buried there are Chinese. Yeah. So, and I mean, got some really influential people who were buried there.
Really?
Yeah.
Like notable people.
Very notable. Or like related to very notable people.
Okay.
Which I will get to lah.
Okay. How can they
sekejap.
take it away? It's got so much history.
But I mean, if you think about it, like there are other cemeteries. I think even Orchard Road was built on a cemetery. Sentosa, there's a lot of bodies there. A lot of Singapore is built on graveyards.
That's true. Or like even Arab Street, that area.
Yeah.
There's still like a bit of the
There
cemetery,
is.
but yeah.
Yeah, there is, right? I don't know how big it was, but so Munah, you say like the ghost you didn't see. Technically, Singapore is probably like a cemetery lah.
That's why we have so many ghosts.
Of the past.
Of the past, yeah.
Ghosts of the past. Correct. So it was finally opened in 1922. It was named the Bukit Brown Municipal Cemetery. Do you think the take-up rate initially was high or not? Because there were other sites that were considered Keppel Harbour, Holland Road, Bidadari, but they were all rejected especially Bidadari, because it was a consecrated Christian ground. And I think they are very strict on who can be buried there.
Right.
Do you think the take-up was high?
My guess is no, because it's not near where a lot of the Chinese people were living, right?
Where were they living?
I think Chinatown area.
I see.
Yeah,
No, Chinese people live Chinatown Where else Munah? Indian people live?
Little India.
Not all Indian people, okay?
That's why I say it. Like, I don't think all Chinese people lived in Chinatown, right?
But I believe the coolies and all, they had their quarters, their work quarters, everything was in the Chinatown area.
Fine.
But the bigger reason is because apparently like the way they structured the plots and all was unfavorable when it comes to feng shui. And also there were two sections, no? There was the general section, which was 14 by 18 feet. It's pretty big, no? I mean, we're all like 5 feet, 6 feet, 14 feet by 18 by 8 feet, and it was priced at $50 at that point in time. And there was a pauper section, 8 by 4 feet. It was free but located in a flood-prone area. Yeah. So after that, they finally rejigged it. The general plots were enlarged to 20 times 10 feet. The pauper plots were enlarged to 10 times 5 feet. And there was more thoughts about how to structure the burial grounds. So by 1929, just 8 years later, what percentage of all Chinese municipal burials do you think happened at Bukit Brown?
80%.
80%.
Yeah, 50%?
40%.
40%.
40%. Still got a lot.
Oh, okay.
There's still a lot.
Remember, Singapore is a graveyard. So there were a lot of other graveyards.
Right. Okay.
But going in 8 years, right, I think the take-up rate was pretty high. And by 1944, the cemetery at that point in time was full. But the reserve plots, people could still bury till it was closed in 1973.
Was it full also related to the war as well?
Yes. So it was only in more recent times when there were plans to develop Bukit Brown Cemetery that there was a whole backlash and spark lit amongst people who wanted to conserve it, and there were a few historians who realized that the trenches where bodies were buried during the Japanese occupation is actually likely to be somewhere at Bukit Brown.
Oh man.
Yeah, and there was another person I think who matched the names of certain people who were buried to the names of the burial, the tombs at Bukit Brown, and they kind of match up.
I see.
So it was even bodies from the war that were buried there. But those were unofficial.
Okay.
Because if you go to Bukit Brown, like Munah, do you remember what it was like? You said the roads were narrow, But do you see the tombs or anything?
Yeah, I mean they were quite large.
Mhm.
They were, and that's my question to it. Like, what is that practice of the tomb itself?
Mm.
Like, I'm interested in that, like in the Chinese culture.
I mean, everyone's looking at me, but
Yeah, that's right.
I don't have answers either.
And like,
but-
why
Yeah.
is it now that you cremate the body, right?
Yeah.
So like, where did that difference come from?
I think the cremation is a practical thing, lah, right? Singapore don't have space and everything.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about those graves, those OG graves,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, the size of it might be a mark of respect, right? If you think about the Chinese culture, like
Almost like a shrine.
yeah, almost
is
like
it?
a shrine for
Yeah.
people to come. So every year there's the Qingming festival and things like that where
Ah.
people go and then they clean the grave and then they
Yeah.
put offerings around as well. So you gotta have space for that, lah.
Yeah, and I mean, as of a few years ago, there are actually still people who take care of the graves at Bukit Brown Cemetery, because, like what I mentioned, there's a lot of notable people have been buried there. So their families and their lineage continues to pay these grave people who take care of the grave caretakers
Yeah.
to go there and clean. Sometimes even repaint the inscriptions on the tomb with like gold paint to kind of make it seem like it's fresh and there to be celebrated lah. And yeah, every year during certain things, Hungry Ghost Festival, the Qingming Festival, a lot of people do go there to pay their respects lah. And eventually over time, once the take-up rate got better, there were rest houses that were provided for visitors. There was a whole bylaw that was invoked in 1920-21 to the point of saying, every plot had to be at least 5 feet deep, not within 20 feet of road dwellings or houses, not within 5 feet of drains or water courses lah.
Okay.
So it was very regulated lah. But as you would imagine, the more popular it got, there were actually, I mean, you hear stories about ghosts, right? And ghosts, yes, there's a lot of dead bodies there, but there were also some notable incidents. So in 1927, there were 2 Chinese men that were fatally stabbed. 1933, there was a clash between secret societies during a funeral attended by 1,000 people. And in 1980, a cemetery caretaker and part-time gardener was robbed and murdered.
Oh my goodness.
In the cemetery.
In the
Like
cemetery.
in the vicinity of the cemetery.
Yeah,
Oh
in the
gosh.
cemetery. Because a lot of these caretakers, when you watch interviews with them, they would say sometimes they would just sleep next to the tomb.
Oh,
And even though it sounds like to people who have a aversion to ghosts or paranormal activity,
Yeah.
it sounds weird. But you hear them talk, they say these are like their grandfathers, their grandparents.
that's true.
And one myth they dispelled, right, is like, when you see a tomb and all, some of them are big. I think the biggest tomb is the size of 2 basketball courts. So that means there's a tomb, but there's a concrete space of 2 basketball courts. So it's a huge
wow.
family lah.
Yeah.
And what these caretakers said, actually, by walking on graves, you let the deceased know that you are there for them and they appreciate the touch lah. Yeah, so he said, I mean, don't go stomping on other people's graves
Okay lah,
lah.
not stomp lah.
Yeah, but if
just
you
like
are
visit.
yeah, and if you are the descendants and all, there's that camaraderie there lah.
That's sweet.
Yeah, but like given there was clashes and given it was popular, and if you think about it, people reserve the slots. What are some things on the negative side that you think could have happened?
Negative side.
Yeah, when there's a
I love
demand.
these, like, I feel like I'm in a lesson.
Yeah.
He keeps
A teacher,
throwing
right?
questions back at us. What do you think could happen?
there's
Definitely
limited
there'll be a
supply.
black market. Black market.
Fight for space.
Yeah, there was a black market. There was illegal swapping.
Oh man.
So
What
by
do you
illegal
mean?
swapping, I don't know whether once buried, there are these people who exhume and bury somewhere else. But there was black market plot selling lah.
How about grave robbers? Like were there?
I mean,
Grave
grave
robbers.
robbers. I mean,
Like
I don't
stealing
think anything in the
jewelry, no.
news or nothing that I could find, but the more pronounced issue was black marketeering and illegal swapping lah.
So what they sell on Carousel?
Carousel.
Their version of
back then,
Carousel.
back then.
Fast deal.
Fast
Still, meet at Bukit Brown.
pick up only, must meet in
pick
person.
up only.
Must meet in person. But going back to, like I mentioned, the notable people, right?
Yeah.
So there is Mrs. Yew Kong, mother of Yew Tong Sen.
Okay.
Kyong Sek.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yonsei
yeah.
Road.
Yeah, so the person whose name that is from is also buried there.
Wow.
There
Oh,
is
wow.
Chu Boon Lay, namesake
Boon
of Boon
Lay.
Lay.
Wow.
Cheng Hong Lim, namesake of
Lim.
Hong Lim Park.
Wow.
And Lee Hong Leong.
Hong Leong.
But Lee Hoon Leong.
Oh,
Hoon Leong. Also.
Yeah. So
Different.
when you hear the first name, what comes to mind? The first.
Lee Kuan Yew.
Lee Kuan Yew's parents.
Yeah. So
No, really?
Lee Hoon Leong is the father of Lee Chin Kun, who is the grandfather of Lee Kuan Yew.
Wow. There's multiple generations.
Yeah. And
That is wild.
so it's essentially Lee Kuan Yew's great grandfather is buried there. lah.
Oh. Wow.
Mm,
Is this public knowledge?
it is.
Wow.
Because all the graves there are public and you can go there and see the names.
Oh,
Wow.
so we can visit them.
You can visit. And I mean, got some interesting stories. There were for Ko Hun Tek, who was a Peranakan leader.
Yeah.
He had a pantun party. So Munah, can you
like
explain what a pantun is?
Pantun is like a poem.
Yeah.
Poetry, yeah.
Yeah,
So what do you mean? He had
It was
a
poetry
pantun-
slam.
So
Poetry slam, yeah. Pantun party.
I mean, one of his wishes was to be buried celebrating his heritage, and he was a Peranakan leader.
Yeah.
And I guess the pantun aspect of it was tied to his cultural background, lah.
That is so cute.
Yeah. So
Very creative.
So the another thing that is very cool is that the architecture, right, and the design of the graves, because there was, I think people put a lot of pride into the look of the and feel of the grave, because it is part of their the culture. I believe that whatever they experience in life, they want to take it with them to the afterlife.
Yeah.
You know, with the burning. So there are tiles from Europe and Japan. There was one video I saw online of this tile enthusiast who regularly goes to Bukit Brown to study the tiles, and he matches it with tiles from like the 1930s of the Tampines Tiling Company or something.
Wow.
TTC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he matches it to the art that was popular in France or Japan at that time.
It was really a Tampines tiling company.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it was
Oh,
spelled
Tampines can do everything.
Tampenis. I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tampines.
Yeah, at least the
Tampines.
newspaper cutting that he found is it Tampines, Tampines.
Because the tree is Tampines.
Yeah.
it's spelled that way, is it?
Tampines.
As opposed
yeah.
to Tampines.
Yes, yeah.
So
Something like that. The actual pronunciation of Tampines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
correct.
that means this tiling company is like got real heritage on kind of
Yeah.
like the TWG, that kind of like
Yeah,
TTC, TWG.
correct. This one a bit more real, a bit more real, because there is actually quantifiable things that shows the history, lah. There were also bricks that were sourced from Alexandra Brickworks and Jurong Brickworks.
ABC.
The plaster was imported from China.
Wow.
The encaustic tiles from England. There was
Wow.
Peranakan tiles. There was ceramic tiles from Europe and Japan. And yeah, very cool. Even you see in those videos, the designs and all, it felt like they took a lot of pride in the graves and wanting to provide for their ancestors.
When you're saying tiles, you mean these tiles were laid vertically or horizontally?
Vertically and horizontally.
Oh, both.
So,
okay.
like, remember I told you there's the biggest grave, there's this 2 basketball-sized court portion. That is all horizontal tiles.
Okay.
So people can literally walk on it. But there are also vertical tiles that decorate the tombs themselves. lah. Yeah, because some of the tombs can be quite ornate. You know, everybody thinks of a tomb as just like one stone pillar sticking out. This one, they have like curved.
Yes, it's like a round, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it's round, and they have like inscriptions. They have portraits, and yeah, even like French inspired techniques, lah.
Wow.
So there's a lot of heritage there, lah.
Yeah.
So, but once it was closed in 1973, and as early as 1965, there was announcements from the then Public Works Department that 237 tombs would be exhumed, lah. And this was to make use for the realignment of Lornie Road.
Oh.
Yeah. So on 18 January 1965, they were exhumed and reinterred, which is a word that I just found out.
Yeah.
Means that to be buried at Choa Chu Kang Cemetery.
Mm.
So there was a public notice in the Straits Times, the names of deceased, grave plot numbers, previous addresses, and burial dates, lah.
So were there any of the notable people who were exhumed?
I mean, it didn't make the news, so I don't think
Oh,
so.
okay.
Yeah, well, you want to go and visit?
No, I just wanted to know, like, do they dare take out someone who's like an iconic figure?
I mean, I don't know how they come up with the list that is going to be exhumed. I'm
Yeah.
guessing by geography, because if it's in line,
Right,
I would like to think so. But, you know, right now, there is actually a Bukit Brown burial register maintained by the National Archive of Singapore, where you can look up the records of who is buried where from 1922 to 1972. It's an online thing. There's an exhumation list, and you can literally look up people.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's all there lah.
I don't know if y'all are superstitious about this, like exhuming people from the graves thing. I just like personally, I just feel like it's so like not nice. Like someone is there resting already, and then you're like digging up their body. I know it happens.
But BTO then?
I know it happens,
Ah.
but then it's just like the idea of it just sometimes like disturbs me a bit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Aiyo,"
Yeah.
like just let them go.
Yeah.
Like especially if they are still there, like they're not like one with the earth anymore.
Yeah.
Like you're actually like taking out someone's body.
Because not even burials, even like even when you cremate as well, right? You move the urn and the ashes around. I think there are people who believe that doesn't allow the spirit to find its way back. Lah.
Yeah.
You know, like the spirit, if it goes out for a walk and after they come back, gone. You know, that kind of thing.
Oh no, yeah. Can
exactly.
you imagine?
Yeah.
Someone move your home.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Some
But
more is
then-
in Novena, right? Where people don't really recognize it at night. Lah.
So would you all prefer...
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, number one, Novena is confusing, okay?
Why?
Look at all the construction happening in
That is
Novena.
true. Yeah, the roads
lah.
change
Like,
every
that's
other
another
month.
episode
when did you go to
altogether.
Bukit Brown?
Very years ago, I would say. In
So
my
your
20s.
foresight of the construction that was coming made you confused lah, is it?
I'm pretty sure there was still construction then, okay? There's construction then, there's construction
No,
now.
okay. If it wasn't exhumed, how would you feel if like the bodies from horizontal they would just turn vertical and stack together?
It's just the like
Touching
even
the
that
body
like
lah.
it's just the taking out
Moving,
someone
yeah.
moving
Yeah.
of this like deceased, like that to me, like I understand like why it has to happen, but
Yeah.
that to me is just such a warped idea, like ayo don't very like was
So that sentiment actually was a big part of why in 2011, when it was announced that Bukit Brown was designated for residential development, there was a lot of backlash. There was talk of this new public housing town by 2050, a new 8-lane Lornie highway to ease traffic
Okay.
on the PIE.
wow it lit.
And initially there were 5,000 graves to be exhumed. It was reduced to about 3,700 in March 2012, and they were either cremated or reinterred in smaller plots lah.
Okay.
So there was, the highway construction, it did begin in 2011, completed in 2018, but as you can imagine, there was a lot of backlash lah. Because people were saying there is a lot of history, there is a lot of nature, and there is just another slice of the life of Singapore that is being taken away. Plus, there are 100,000 bodies lah.
yeah.
Yeah, but you all don't remember feeling like what you just said about the bodies being exhumed back in 2011, or is it just you all were young and carefree? I didn't feel anything. I don't even remember it being discussed lah.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah, I never knew life before cremation. Lah. Yeah, I didn't know people being
okay.
buried. Lah. Yeah, I never heard that within my family. Lah.
Yeah,
Never
I
heard that.
knew about the other cemetery where they were trying to make space, so they started to put like some families they will ask you like, can we put all of you together? Do you
Oh,
You
remember
mean
that?
after burial? So
Yeah, after burial, everything. So like
really?
then they kind of moved. So I knew about that, and I felt the same way also. Like just like very superstitious to be doing that.
yeah.
But I didn't know about this because this is like such a big number as well, right?
Yeah. And I mean, can you guess who was a minister kind of like at the center of this on the government's...
Can't even begin to guess.
2012.
He's no longer in the government lah.
Would it be Koordi one?
Minister
No,
of
it was
Transport, is it?
Tan Chuan Jin.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
He's not
he
a
wa-
minister back then, lah, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
he
was
wasn't
he?
lah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not so sure his role, but he was the one fronting the discussions because it was discussed in Parliament.
Right.
About the heritage value and the need for infrastructure versus preservation lah. And there were some comparisons that were brought up. Apparently at that point in time, golf courses was a point of argument because it took up I think 2 to 3% of Singapore's land. So if that can be preserved, why does the cemetery need to carry on lah? And the counter argument was that golf courses can still be enjoyed by Singapore citizens, whereas the cemetery, it is...
Well, a select few of
Yeah.
Singapore citizens.
But the same way Bukit Brown Cemetery, if it's all just Chinese burial graves, is it for all Singaporeans? I'm not saying it isn't, but
No,
you know,
but
there's
one
that
is
debate
leisure,
lah.
one is like family.
Yeah.
You know?
But there's also isn't there also some cultural significance as well? Like what you said, the
Yeah.
tiles and the how the
Yeah.
architecture and everything.
Yeah,
Is
but
it- it's
until
important
I
too.
started doing research for this episode, I didn't know there was so much cultural history. To
True,
me, I was
true.
like, okay, I mean, as a former politician, Goh Chun Kang said, the dead should make way for the living. Damn
Yes,
sad,
that's
right?
so sad.
Damn sad. Damn sad.
I was so sad.
And I mean, there was also a push to declare this UNESCO heritage site, lah. Especially after the Botanic Gardens got it in 2015. But why do you think Bukit Brown did not make the cut?
Did not make the cut.
Yeah,
Is
to
it
be
because
a
it's not beautiful or
It-
pristine
no,
enough?
because it is neither a building nor a monument.
Oh, okay.
Because if you think
Okay.
about a UNESCO heritage site, there's UNESCO, like the hawker culture in Singapore, I think is a UNESCO, there's a certain term for it, but it's not a physical space, lah. Yeah, so Bukit Brown, yeah, it's not a monument or it's not a building, but yeah, there was push for it to be preserved, but nothing much came out of it. Preserved officially lah, means it cannot be touched.
Right.
But ultimately, I mean, there've actually been a lot of groups that came up. There was All Things Bukit Brown. There was a Facebook group, Heritage Singapore Bukit Brown Cemetery, the Rojak Librarian, SOS Bukit Brown. There was a petition to save Bukit Brown. It was SOS Bukit Brown. And I mean, I also always used to wonder, because back then also I wasn't too concerned, but there are people who do tours there. There are people who do like
okay.
horseback riding there, even though that has kind of declined because now it's not the most well maintained.
Where did all this come from? Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, there are pictures of the
That's-
people riding horseback, and it's not
okay.
from the colonial times. lah.
Possible. Because
Like
there are some
in the
stables.
recent last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's possible because
Oh.
there are some stables there.
Okay.
With horses. Yeah,
Is
they
it
do
the,
rides.
the old Caldecott, is it?
Actually around there. Yeah. Polo
is it
Club.
there?
Right. The RDA, the location.
Yeah.
All around there.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. In 2014, it was included in the World Monuments Watch List as an endangered site. But there's no protections that come with that, as opposed to like a UNESCO site. So in terms of vegetation and wildlife, there was another argument. So it plays a big role. There's an environmental role. There's plant life. There is a whole bunch of birds and mammals and fishes and frogs that are native to that place. And also, it's a wildlife corridor connecting MacRitchie to Mount Faber. Because if you imagine, it's really in the central catchment area of Singapore.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of thick foliage there, lah. But I mean, where we are now is that our plans are going ahead, lah. Even though at that point in time, right, there were a lot of articles written around the world. For example, in The Guardian, the title was Land Staff Singapore Exhumes its Cemeteries to Build Roads and Malls. Bloomberg saying goodbye to one of Singapore's last historic cemeteries. And BBC, Singapore to drive road through historic cemetery.
Wow, these people in the headlines.
They're ready to go lah. But I mean, while in parallel with that, I think the government, they did take some of the feedback into account, and there were certain restoration projects that were initiated. The cemetery gates were cleaned and relocated in 2016. Apparently, there are these very majestic cemetery gates that were relocated to make way for the road. Self-guided walking trail started. There was a Sounds of the Earth, which is an outdoor display of 80 unclaimed artifacts found during highway construction. Because if you think about the
okay.
historical significance, the fact that, let's say, bodies from the Japanese occupation were buried there, there's a lot of things that don't decay that were found. But essentially, the plans are going forward. As of now, what is going on is 2013, the first exhumations began. It carried on, the roads were built, and right now I think there is no immediate land clearing happening, but it is definitely not going to be stopped. Right now it's
Okay,
still there, and what it is, there's the cemeteries all exist. There are still tours, but even in terms of people visiting, it's on the decline, except during those notable times around the year. The Qingming Festival, Hungry Ghost Festival, that's when people go there. But there are still the grave caretakers that work there.
Okay.
And I think the original ones, or like the older folk, they are retiring, but there are a few newer, younger generation people who are taking over. But again, it's one of those declining traits.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, with all that backstory and all that context, Like, have your feelings about Bukit Brown, like, do you all, like, if you all had to decide, do you think it should be preserved? Think about the location. It's right in the middle of Singapore, no?
So what? Good for housing, is it?
Good for district prime housing. Prime
Hey, this
housing.
district, don't know what, 9 or 21 or something like that, lah. You know, the PSF, Munah, it's all about the PSF.
But understanding the history of it is quite interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
Because now you realize like, oh, actually the history even goes back all the way to, a colonial era. And when you take that away, you kind of like, what's the soul of Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Quite literally, being
Yeah.
exhumed and taken away for housing, as opposed to finding a way to build around it.
Yeah.
But I mean, build around it, you mean what? Like,
Or build over it or something.
so would you all be okay if, let's say, your housing development, there's like a space between the ground and like, and you know there are bodies below, lah?
I mean, but to me, that's what we need to do in Singapore, right? We need to preserve the past a bit more rather than just quickly destroy everything.
I
that is
agree
in the
with
way.
that
Yeah.
because I think, like, I get it. We're small and we need space, but then in needing that space, sometimes we kind of just discard these things that hold value to our history, to our past, and then one day, like, there will be a generation that is born not knowing that there's all this to Singapore, or like not even being able to see it in the country anymore. Like, you hear about it, this Bukit Brown Cemetery, blah, 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 but you don't have it anymore. So I feel like, the more we do that, the more we lose, that soul of Singapore, the history of Singapore.
Yeah.
But it's hard, right?
Yeah, it's
because
hard.
like, as a nation, you need to sort of move forward with what your people need.
Yeah.
Reclaim more land.
Reclaim, yeah,
Easy,
exactly. Thank you, Munah. No one thought of that. Yeah. Wow. What a breakthrough.
Oh, we need to find a balance here, guys.
Yeah,
Come
we gotta
on.
find a balance, yeah. Because, I mean, it's one of those things that it's the sad truth of a country like Singapore where land is so scarce.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all know that at some point this is gonna be lost, lah.
But you think about it, I don't know if you all ever saw that movie Demolition Man. Like,
Yeah, I did.
long ago, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
There's this part where they built a museum above like an old part of the city. So they preserved everything, the destruction and everything below, and then they just put glass panels over it, and then people could walk and see what the city was like 20, 30 years ago. lah. So, I mean, imagine Bukit Brown, we do that. Like, we built like something over it, like glass.
That's a better
museum or
suggestion than mine. I am that like irritating commenter, on the post.
Just reclaim land, lah. Reclaim, lah. Easy,
Government can do
something. I'm willing
Okay.
to pay taxes.
Listen to Terence. That's a good idea,
But
actually.
even then, that's a bit of like you walking at your void deck over glass, then you can kind of see like the burial plots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that was from a movie. That was from a movie
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't exactly
I mean, in
reality.
some way, maybe the first step is to normalize the fact, like what the grave caretaker said, right? There's no stigma being like going to the grave and all. In fact, if you believe you're honoring ancestors, they appreciate having people there. I think right now people don't want to live near cemeteries and all because there is that stigma. But maybe the first step to realize is that, hey, they're there, they're chilling out.
That's true.
And just hang out with
The
them.
stigma that ghosts are negative, right? But actually, ghosts are probably also friends and just trying to get through death.
Dealing with
Dealing
the
with-
day-to-day
yeah.
struggles.
Yeah.
But do you all
that's
feel
it.
that Asian culture, we have a very unhealthy relationship with like death and
Yeah, lah.
afterlife?
It's the superstition and the was-wasness
Yeah.
that we call it in Malay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe it's sort of finding
So,
some,
I think the
some
first step
different
is-
mindset with that.
Yeah. So for Munah, I think you should revisit Bukit Brown.
You know what? After you told me all this, I want to go because I want to see
You can look at the tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the inscriptions, you have to help me
Yeah,
lah.
yeah, but just I don't think it's just don't go stomping on the tombs. Just
tap
I
dancing.
won't go
just be
stomping.
respectful.
Yeah.
And I mean at the end of the day, I think like it is important we know the history of Bukit Brown Cemetery and the people who are buried there because a lot of them. Now we know that they have played a big part in shaping Singapore, lah, from the roads to the infrastructure
Yeah.
and even the future of Singapore, lah.
Yeah, in fact, they're making us reckon with our past, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
So remember, if you didn't know anything about Bukit Brown, hopefully now you do, and you heard it here first on Tell You First. Tell You First is produced by Ministry of Funny and brought to you by Mediacorp. This episode was hosted and produced by Terence, Chia and Haresh Tilani and featured Munah Bagharib. Sound engineering by Tristen, Yeak. And special thanks to Koordi from Mediacorp. And if you're a fan of our work, you can follow the podcast on the Me Listen app, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can also watch this episode first on the Me Listen app or on YouTube 1 week later through the Mediacorp Entertainment channel. Links to these will be in the episode description. Thank you for listening and see you on the next episode of Tell You First.